Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. As we continue our series on the principles of the Second Vatican Council, today's Do You Know question is, do you know the radical nature of the Vatican II principle of religious freedom? For many centuries previous to the Second Vatican Council, the Church had difficulty with anyone freely choosing of their own accord, a path to God that was different than the Catholic Church. This difficulty was greatly enhanced by the reformers of the Protestant Reformation, simply because they promoted religious freedom and the ability of a person to choose based on their own conscience. And in most countries, this was also extremely problematic because the Church insisted that the state was to protect its religious beliefs and practices and actually persecute and denigrate the others. And so for many centuries, it became extremely difficult for the Church to even consider religious freedom. Yet, by the 20th century, most religious denominations were very strong proponents of this principle, and in 1961 New Delhi Assembly of the World Council of Churches, it was officially approved by that body. The big question that really surfaced at the Second Vatican Council was this. Whether the Church could fully respect the right and duty of any individual to follow their own conscience with regards to their path to God. Could the Church actually respect that? Previous to the Second Vatican Council, many theologians, including Jesuit theologian John Courtney Murray, were silenced for advocating this position. As a matter of fact, many of them were disinvited from attending the council because of their positions on religious freedom. However, the American bishops were some of the strongest proponents of this principle of religious freedom, simply because it was so inherent already in the 200-year history of the American political system of separation of church and state. So Cardinal Spellman, over the objection of a number of the theologians and the officers of the Second Vatican Council, brought Jesuit John Courtney Murray with him to the council, and it was John Courtney Murray who was ultimately responsible for the drafting of a document which was officially approved by the council, the Declaration on Religious Freedom, its Latin name being known as Dignitatis Humani. And so with this document, the council approved and affirmed the tolerance for all faiths and rejected, on strong theological grounds, any coercion whatsoever in the sphere of faiths and beliefs. And so what I'd like to do is just quote you two little quotes, one from the actual document Dignitatis Humanis, and the other one from Cardinal Ratzinger, who at the time was Father Ratzinger, a theologian at the Second Vatican Council, who would later become the future Pope Benedict XVI. So this is a quote from Dignitatis Humanis, number 2 of that document on the Declaration on Religious Liberty. The Vatican Council declares that the human person has a right to religious freedom. Freedom of this kind means that everyone should be immune from coercion by individuals, social groups, and every human power, so that, within due limits, no men or women are forced to act against their convictions, nor are any persons to be restrained from acting in accordance with their convictions in religious matters, in private or in public, alone or in association with others. So this document, this quote from this document, actually enshrines that principle of religious freedom for all people, giving them the freedom to choose with their own conscience their path to God. As the document was being approved, Cardinal Ratzinger, or at that time Father Ratzinger, was writing in his diary this particular quote: "The debate on religious liberty will in later years be considered one of the most important events of this council, already rich in important events. To use a catchphrase once again, there was in St. Peter's the sense that there was the end of the Middle Ages, the end even of the Constantinian age." And so Father Ratzinger, very much aware at the time that this was a significant direction that the church was taking, and it proved to be an extremely significant one even to this very day. Now, religious freedom is built into the American political system and way of life, so we have no problem with religious freedom. But this is not true for most of the world. We take it for granted, but most of the world does not. And as a result, the danger could very well be on our part. The danger is that of indifferentism. This could lead to tendencies to hide or not let us know about our religious beliefs and practices and so on. We relegate, therefore, religion to the private sphere, to private life, and not let it impact anything having to do with public life. But the principle of religious freedom essentially states that everyone has a right to choose their path to God, and no one can coerce them in one way or the other. And at the very same time, we have the freedom to speak publicly about our religion so that it could impact the overall public way of dealing and integrating one another. And we have a right to do that without denigrating the others. So I hope this has explained why this principle of religious freedom was so radical at the Second Vatican Council, and why it continues to be a very important freedom for all of us as a religious people. So I hope this has explained a bit of why it's so radical, and I hope you will return again to more Do You Know series questions as we continue to explore the various principles of the Second Vatican Council. Thank you very much.